Hey guys, I'm going to make a video here on a 2002 Buick LeSabre, and the heater isn't putting out a lot of heat. So I'm going to show you what I'm working on to flush the heater core, and hopefully this will help somebody out if they have the same or similar problem. Let me flip my camera around. So this is the car. It's a 2002 Buick LeSabre, and what I have here is a small shop vac and a couple hoses. Over there's a container that had antifreeze in it, has a little bit in there now. So those of you that don't know, there's two lines back over here that go into the firewall and go to the heater core, and they connect right here to the tensioner, and the tensioner has coolant running through it. Anyway, so what I did is I disconnected these hoses. There's one here, and you can see the clamp there. They're kind of a bugger to get off. You squeeze them. This time I ended up squeezing them with my vice grips and was able to get them off. And they were a lot easier to get off the second time. I've already worked on this once. And what I did is replace that elbow. You see that little shiny thing? There's an elbow there, and then there's another elbow toward the back under the alternator. And they're made of plastic. They always seem to crack, and then they leak, and you get coolant everywhere, and you're always losing coolant. So I replaced those, and when I did that, I took these hoses off, and it was kind of a booger. So what I had to do was take the clamps off, and I guess they make a special tool that fits on there, because you can only get them so close with the regular pair of pliers. But then I took a small screwdriver and I wedged it up underneath into the hose there, and I think if I remember right, I ended up using this bigger screwdriver, kind of a pry bar, and I slowly worked the hoses off of those two tubes there that go into the, I don't know if it's the water pump or the idler, I forget. Now there's another way. You can see that there's a bolt right there. There's one on each of those hoses. I loosened, took the bolts out, and I couldn't get those to come out of that bracket, so I just pried the hoses off. So anyway, the problem I'm having with this car is when it warms up and you turn the heater on, it just blows kind of cool air, not even really lukewarm. So I took it off, and I was working in my garage over there, and I didn't want to make a mess on the floor, so I thought, well, instead of hooking a garden hose up to it and flushing out the heater core, I'll just use my vacuum. So I got my little shop vac here, and I put this into the hose on the back of the shop vac so it was blowing instead of sucking. And first thing I did, I guess, was sucked all the water out of it. As you can see, I've got the vacuum hose hooked up there. This is the inlet hose. So normally the water's going in there, so I thought it would suck it out backwards. And I did that. And then I hooked it all back up, put fresh coolant in it. And there's a bleeder valve right on top of the thermostat housing right here. It's like a 1/4 inch bolt that goes into it, and you can unscrew it and bleed out the air. So I bled it out pretty good, and I was getting a little more heat, but it still wasn't what I wanted. So what I did today, kind of the same thing. I unhooked the hoses, I sucked all the fluid out, and I saved it in that container over there so I can throw it back in because it's brand new coolant. And then I went and got some radiator flush, and I dumped it down the hose to fill up the, well, let me back up a second. I actually took the garden hose. As you can see, I've got a garden hose hooked up to the house, and then I put a shutoff valve right here, and then a small piece of garden hose I'd cut off of a bad garden hose, and this would fit right inside of the hose there. So I stuck it in that hose, and then I flushed it both directions. I put it in this hose, flushed the water out of the inlet outlet hose, and then I reversed it and did the same thing. Tried to get any junk out of there. And now what I've done is I put a bottle of Prestone. I'm going to pause this just for a second, and I'm going to grab the bottle.